God said, "Up with your feet, anoint him. This is the one." So Samuel took a flask of oil, anointed him with his brothers standing there, and get this is the most important part. And the Spirit of God entered David like a rush of wind, and God vitality empowering him for the rest of his life. That's what that anointing meant, that the Spirit of God was rushing into David's life, and it never left him for the rest of his life. So I want to ask you a question, and this is not a trick question, and I sincerely do not want you to answer this question, like raise your hand if you really don't know what this means, or if you're really not sure. Like, just raise your hand if you believe that you are anointed. Okay, awesome. So I'm thankful for the ones who didn't raise their hand because they're genuinely not sure. Because I was actually really confused by this word whenever I first started like preaching and stuff. Because I really never heard this word. I didn't really like notice this word that much in the Bible, even though it's everywhere. But people just started coming up to me and they were like, "Man, you're so anointed." And I would just be like, "Great." Like, I kind of just thought that meant like I'm doing something for God. So I was like, that's awesome, you know, like a compliment. Well, then I was like, some places I would preach and people would be like, "Man, the anointing was so strong." Or like people would say like, "That anointing was so thick." Like the anointing of their night was so good. And I was like, okay, which then it kind of confused me on what anointing must mean, because then I was like, well, are sometimes you more anointed than other times? And are some people more anointed than you are? And you know, what if I lose the anointing? And every time I would speak, I would pray like, "God, like, please give me the anointing, because I don't want to go up here and not have this anointing, because everyone is like, this is anointed." And so I was just like, and yes, my brain is weird, and I freak out over little things, but I'm like, what does this mean? And so finally, I looked up what this means. And I found great comfort in what anointing actually means.